Let me now introduce our own BWS member, Mr. Rajdeep Mitra. His profound interest and love for the natural world since his childhood days have fueled his drive to explore and contribute to his passion through scientific research rather than just relying on his binoculars and camera. Eager to expand his knowledge and understanding, he embarked on an internship at the Wildlife Institute of India, dedicating 10 months to studying the impact of high-tension power lines on large birds in the semi-arid landscape of western Gujarat. Building upon his experience, he pursued a master's degree in environmental science. Recently, Rajdeep completed a comprehensive study on wildlife hazards with a special emphasis on bird hazards and air strikes in and around Jolly Grant in Dehradun. Now his focus has shifted to unraveling the intricate mysteries of seabird migration in the Indian waters. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our own BWS member, Rajdeep Mitra.
For having me here. It's been a while I've been a part of BWS, but never really had the chance to getting to know everyone. So thank you so much for having me and giving me the chance to showcase some of the data and some of the intricate stories of different parts of this country. As my previous two speakers, Dr. Suresh and Amarjeet, has already talked about long distance migrants, Amur Falcon, the trans-equatorial migrant, and Amarjeet is talking about the barn swallow, who is also likely to travel trans-equatorial distances. I, on the other hand, would like to take you on a journey in the seas, in the oceans, Indian Ocean, Arabian Sea, in the Indian region. As all you must have been aware of, recently the cyclone Biparjoy has made a landfall in the western part of our country, in Gujarat specifically. And with that, interestingly, we are all aware of that. Pelagic birds, seabirds, such as the brittle tern, such as the brown noddy, sooty tern, frigate birds, all of these birds are making a landfall. I remember in 2020 when I was there in Korea, my home, when Cyclone Amphan, when it landed in Bengal, as it was a devastation of course, but it brought lots and lots of seabirds. People were rushing to the different ghats of Ganga in order to see the storm petrels, to see the shearwaters, sooty terns. They were all going up through the Ganga and as far as probably the Farakka barrage. Some of the records have been there from the Farakka barrage. You might often wonder that while the cyclones are bringing these birds, is it all bad? I mean, we find individuals which are baffled by the storm, which are injured, which is not really in a good condition to fly. But is it likely the case for all the individuals we come across? So a recent study by the Swansea University scientists have actually found that birds such as the storm petrels, shearwaters, terns, some of them actually like to be at the center of the cyclone, giving them the advantage with the wind to make sure that they also follow the ocean currents and the winds which are introducing them into the land, following the food resources, availability of food resources. So interestingly, not all we think that the birds are coming here in this landscape. My God, must be such a pity that this bird, oceanic bird, seabird making landfall here, it's a sad thing. But it's not always the case. Some birds, as we all know, they have been dealing with cyclones for centuries, for millennials. So this is an interesting reveal. It's recently discovered by the scientists that birds are likely to actually utilize these different cyclones and using them for their own benefit, like this case. So today's topic which I will be discussing about is the navigating the high seas, seabird migration in the Indian region. Wonders of the high seas. Most of the seabirds, as we know, are widespread. They're spread throughout the equator and mostly across the 30-degree north to 30-degree south latitude. And because of their widespread distribution, most of these birds are listed as least concern. However, what is the actual status of these birds? One single bird species like the sooty tern or the brown noddy bridle tern could be widespread throughout the equator, but they do represent different subpopulations. The birds which we see here in the Arabian Sea and the birds which we see here in the Dry Tortuga National Park in Florida, they are different subpopulations. So the actual work that needs to be done is figuring out what is actually happening to these different subpopulations across the globe. We might think that, okay, it's a least concern species ranging around 5 million birds worldwide, so okay, fair enough, it's a least concern bird, no need to worry. But what about the population? What about the subpopulation that are here using this Indian Ocean, using the Arabian Sea landscape? What is going on? We don't know. We really are not sure. What's the status of these birds here? These birds face many challenges, especially in this part of the world. Some of the major threats the seabird face are habitat loss. We all know global warming, sea level are rising continuously. Most of the seabirds, we know that they like to make nests in the cliffs, but some of the birds like the brown noddies, the sooty terns, the brittle terns, the greater crested tern, lesser crested tern, all the tern species mostly, they prefer to make nests on sandy beaches. What is happening is, when the sea level is rising, we are losing those sandy beaches on a regular basis, continuously. So with that, we're losing their main nesting spot. Overfishing, as we know, it's one of the biggest reasons the entire marine ecosystem is facing issues. The overfishing has been depleting the ocean of the main food of these birds, small fishes. Egg collection. This has been a major issue all around the world. Wherever we see these different birds, seabirds nesting, because they are ground nesters, easy to go with a boat and collect their eggs for food. That's one of the main reasons many of these populations are facing a difficult time in order to breed. Whenever they are breeding, humans, as we always do, we go there, collect the nests and then come back and feed and enjoy this. But these birds are actually facing trouble. Introduction of introduced species. As you might have noticed, wherever humans go, they introduce a lot of new species. Let it be a cat, let it be black rats, let it be dogs, could be anything. So whenever we are settling down in a new landscape, we are actually bringing new animals, which we consider good for us, the dogs and cats, domesticated animals. What we are actually doing is making this landscape, the entire ecosystem, completely changing. We're changing the landscape, we're changing the ecosystem, we're bringing invasive species, and for them, those birds which have never seen a rat, which have never seen a cat, a dog, look what happened to the dodos, the Danes, the Netherlands people, they went there, and the dodos never knew about humans. The humans just went there, grabbed them by the neck and just finished off the entire population. It's the same case that is happening in case of the terns and the seabirds. On those remote beaches, people are going there and collecting the eggs. They're collecting the nests. Climate change, as I've already mentioned, is creating a big issue, changing the landscape, changing the monsoon, changing the wind pattern, changing everything. And the birds, which are very much dependent on different environmental factors, different environmental elements, they're also having trouble to adapt to this rapid change in the environment. So in the Indian waters, as you can see, the red marked area which I have marked is the Chagos Laccadive Ridge. This ridge actually found, we all heard about the continental drift. So in the mid-Cretaceous, 80 million years ago, when the India was connected with Madagascar, the Madagascar and India got diverged from each other. As Indian plate moved on its journey upwards, Seychelles Island, as you can see here, right in front of Madagascar, right on top of Madagascar, it again got separated from India around 60 million years ago, late Cretaceous period. And when the Indian plates were moving up, right here in this Chagos Laccadive Ridge, underneath the sea level, there are active volcanoes, which are continuously spitting out lava and magma. So this Chagos Laccadive archipelago actually is nothing but the volcanic eruption, continuous volcanic eruption. And this volcanic eruption ended up making this land, which we now see as Lakshadweep Islands, Maldives, and all those different islands in even Seychelles. On the other hand, you see the Andaman Nicobar Islands. An interesting factor, which many of you have been to Andaman Nicobar Islands, I can ask how many of you have actually seen a crested tern, a sooty tern, or a brown noddy nesting in Andaman Nicobar Islands? I'm not aware of any nesting sites in Andaman Nicobar Islands. On the other hand, if you see the Lakshadweep, Maldives and Seychelles, you know there are many nesting sites, 46 nesting sites all total in those different islands in the Arabian Sea, in the western southwest part of the Indian Ocean. So what could be the reason? One of the main reasons is that the Andaman Nicobar Islands does not have the suitable habitats for these birds to nest. These birds prefer undisturbed landscape. No human interruption, no other species interruption. It should be sandy beach, it should be a cliffy habitat, but there should not be any disturbance. In the Andaman Nicobar Islands, we have introduced so many invasive species. We have introduced literally rats, cats, dogs, and of course human beings were also there. Look what is happening to the edible nest swiftlet in Andaman Nicobar. Wherever they are making nests, humans are going there and collecting the nests. They are making nest high up in those caves, but still the terns, they make nest on the ground, very susceptible for humans or any other land predator. Next thing is that what are those influencing factors that affect this migration or affect the influence the seabirds in the Indian Ocean? Food availability, as we all know, for any bird to thrive in any landscape, food is the most important thing. If you are not getting food, why should you be there? So the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea is rich with plankton, rich with foods which are very essential for this bird to thrive. The second is the ocean currents. It is known that all of these seabirds, they follow oceanic currents. The Somali current in the Somalian part, to the West Indian coastal current, to the monsoon current. All these currents actually bring a lot of food resources, from plankton to fishes to krills to all those different crustaceans. They bring this and make an inflow and outflow throughout this Arabian Sea, the Indian region. That helps this bird to find food. So they are many ways dependent to the ocean currents. Monsoonal winds and wind patterns, as my previous speaker, Dr. Suresh and Amajid, have also suggested, that in the Indian region, many of the birds which are moving across, they are heavily dependent on the monsoonal winds. Like your Amur falcons, they are heavily dependent on them. They are making the use of the tailwind which they get in order to cross that landscape. That same monsoonal wind, the southwest monsoon and the northeast monsoon, not only help the Amur falcons to make a cross from India all the way to Somalia, but also helps those oceanic birds, pelagic birds, seabirds to move around the sea. Breeding colonies along the coastline. You have food, you have the wind, you have everything. You still need a shade, a place to make nest. These land, the Chagos-Laccadive archipelago and Chagos-Laccadive ridgeline, and all those different islands that have formed when the Indian plate got diverged from the African plate and Madagascar and Seychelles, all those small volcanic islands which rose up provide ideal nesting grounds for those small birds, the seabirds. Another influencing factor is climate change and human impact. No matter how much we say that all these birds and animals are much more dependent on nature, humans play a crucial role. Just for the case of Amarji, if the house owner decides to shut the window, decides to not open the door, where will the barn swallow go? The nesting will fail completely. So human-induced factor is a very crucial factor. If you go and look at those different islands where these birds have nested, and you start going there, collecting the egg, collecting guano, or just making sure you're disrupting those birds for the fun of it, these birds will immediately leave that land and will not come back. So humans are one of those primary influencing factors for the seabirds which are making nests or breeding colonies in and around this area in the Indian region. Lakshadweep archipelago, a very important landscape. This Lakshadweep archipelago, as I mentioned, is sitting right on top of the Chagos-Laccadive ridgeline, has around 36 islands, and 17 of them are inhabited, giving those seabirds an ideal landscape to breed. Because this is the same landscape where you get the monsoonal winds, the same landscape where you get the monsoonal current, West Indian current to bring a lot of food, a lot of resources for them to thrive. In the entire Lakshadweep archipelago, there are multiple islands where these birds are actually breeding. If you take out the 17, if you include the 17 uninhabited islands, Piti Island and Cheravanini Island are the primary two islands where these birds are known to breed. Piti, previously the Suheli and Bagamor land flats, sand flats, they also provide a perfect roosting spot. If you talk about the shorebirds, if you see what the shorebirds are doing, they need not only but landscape in order to go there and forage actively. The shorebirds also need a landscape where they can roost. They can roost at night. If you looked at that, you all heard about that those different shorebirds which are coming in our West Bengal coastline, but they're actively foraging and going shore and making sure. Jammu Deep, we have all heard of Jammu Deep near our coastline, where many of the seabirds go there at night to roost. The same way, these all birds are also required different islands to make sure they're resting them, they're roosting, the night roosting sites. So all these different things play a crucial role in making Lakshadweep archipelago an ideal site for the birds to be there. So the Piti Island, look at how small this island is. This island is of 200 to 400 kilometers off Kochi, Kerala. This island is 300 meter into 200 meter. A small land devoid of vegetation, nothing is there, only sand flat, just sand, a sandy beach, where the first ever field observation was done by Hume in 1886. But unfortunately, he made a visit in October, where he did not encounter any seabirds in Piti Island. After that, in 1964, Matthew and Ambedkar were the first people to go off in Piti Island, and where they saw, in April to November, large colony of nesting seabirds. Kurup and Zacharias, they were another pioneers who have done research in Lakshadweep, in Piti Island, where they reported that June to August as the peak breeding season, where in this small landscape, 5,000 to 6,000 sooty terns, 8,000 to 9,000, the numbers could be more, you can't actually count them properly that way, of brown noddies nesting in that land. They also mentioned interestingly that these birds do not get intermixed. The colonies are separated. If here the sooty terns are nesting, in the other place the brown noddies would be nesting. They won't be mixed colony. Pandey et al. In 2007 reported that in Thinakara and Suheli Island, these were also nesting places for these birds. As I mentioned previously, human influencing factors. As humans started to venture around in these two islands, collecting different elements such as eggs, guanos, which I will talk about later, they had disrupted the entire breeding system in these two lands. And previously, these two lands were literally flooded with sooty terns and brown noddies. And now, as these birds are very susceptible to human presence, not a single one of them stay there. So Piti is now one of the only remaining hotspot where the oceanic birds you see here in Gujarat, the bridle tern, the sooty tern you see, the brown noddy you see, imagine all those different birds are actually breeding in this small landscape where you can actually throw a stone from this side and the stone will end up on the other side of the ocean. How small this place particularly is, which shows how important it is to preserve this landscape. That is why the Indian government realized it, and in 1972 when our Wildlife Protection Act was launched, they declared this is a protected area. You are not supposed to go there and for any kind of fun or field visit and go there and disturb these birds. Birds of Piti. What are those birds of Piti? Sooty tern. So let me give you a brief introduction of all these different birds which you have been seeing in Facebook and other social media platforms. The sooty tern is actually a bird which is known to breed from the 30-degree northern latitude to the 30-degree south latitude throughout the equatorial belt. These birds are there throughout the equator, but these birds also represent different populations. These are also known as wide-awake birds. In the Dry Tortuga National Park in Florida, the people say that these birds make continuous call. They do not shut up. It's like they're always making this cacophony for which they have gotten this name of wide-awake birds. Interesting factor is, sooty terns live up to 30 to 32 years. But the young individuals take 6 to 8 years to get sexually mature. So for 6 to 8 years, sooty tern do not come to land. So where do these birds go? The young individuals, where are they going? If they are not making a landfall, the historical records say when there were not too much ocean pollution, now it's flooded with lots of ocean pollution, they would land on the backs of sea turtles. Imagine, you're going out on a small sailing vessel and you are seeing a sooty tern landing on top of a sea turtle. What a mesmerizing sight that must have been. Sadly, we are not seeing them in that way anymore. They would be probably sitting on a thermocol or something else right now in the Arabian Sea or in the Indian Ocean or wherever that may be. Another interesting fact of this seabird is Sooty terns feather are not waterproof. You see the gannets, we know the northern gannets, literally dive into the ocean, catch a bird, catch a fish, and then get out because their feathers have oil glands, preening glands. That's why their feathers don't get dry, don't get wet. But these birds, they do not have, they evolutionarily, they do not have not developed these glands. What they do is they just fly on top of the ocean belt or on the sea floor, just like our Indian skimmers. You see an Indian skimmer with a long beak, elongated lower beak, they will just skim across the landscape and get into and catch the fish. Whereas the sooty terns, they rely very much on their sight. They will just skim across slowly on top of the ocean floor. Wherever they will see a small sardine, a krill or any other fish, they will catch and go rather than diving into the ocean. You must have heard of different shearwaters, petrel. We all know those other oceanic birds, pelagic birds. In their case, these birds rely heavily on their olfactory senses. These birds known to have tube nose, a tube-like nose, which signifies that these birds depend heavily on their sense, the sense of smell. They, unlike the sooty terns, would skim across the ocean and try to smell out the prey. And they will, and Wilson storm petrel, who is not heard of this bird. The storm petrel got its name in the Bible. It's mentioned that Saint Petrel, who was a person who walked on the ocean. The Wilson storm petrel, it flies so low to the ocean floor as if it's walking on the ocean floor, walking on the sea, on top of the sea. That's how it got its name, the storm petrel. As also in different parts of the country, in different parts of the world, in Americas, these birds used to be known as witch. Why? Because whenever they used to see this bird near the land, there would be a cyclone, there would be a tornado. So this is how all these different birds are connected with each other, connected with us. Sooty tern, on the other hand, they do not like to venture out deep into the sea, deep into the ocean. So I'll present you a person's work who has influenced me a lot. I've read his book, which I'll suggest you later. Chris Ferry. This man has devoted 40 years of his life studying the sooty tern population in the Indian Ocean region. He has discovered 46 different islands in the Indian Ocean and West Indian Ocean belt where these birds are nesting. If you look at the breeding range, the mid-blue belt is actually their breeding season. If you look at that, it's from March all the way to June, and from May, June, the breeding range peaks, and the birds leave from July all the way to August. July, August, again, the time of monsoon. And then again they come in January, February, March, the time of our northeast monsoon. As you can see, these birds are also heavily dependent on the monsoonal winds, and they utilize those winds to come into this landscape and breed. Out of this 46 known nesting sites, unfortunately, many of the nesting sites are gone. Human influence, sea level rise, many other factors, introduction of invasive species, have actually finished all those different lands where these birds used to nest. The Dry Tortuga National Park, which I keep on mentioning, the sooty tern population have drastically gone down from 3 million to 350,000 in 8 decades. Imagine what a catastrophic impact this species must be going through in that landscape. Still, it is considered a least concern species. Should it not raise an eyebrow? It definitely does for me. I think it should also raise an eyebrow for all of you as well, the way these birds are losing numbers. So Chris Ferry's work also involved tagging these birds. He tagged many individuals. This is where I will talk about 4 different individuals which he tagged from the Bird Island in Seychelles. This is how these birds move across. You see, one bird is going into the Bay of Bengal. 2 birds are going into the Bay of Bengal, while the other 2, one is going into the Chagos-Laccadive ridgeline, another one is hanging around in Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean ridge. But the birds which he tagged, you can't really see them getting near the Lakshadweep archipelago. They might be there, but the birds which he tagged, they're not there. So where are the birds which are using the Lakshadweep archipelago as nesting sites? Where are they going? What's their movement? where these birds are going there after they're breeding, and before breeding, where they're going. Even the young individuals, I said 6 to 8 years they take to get mature. Where are they hanging out in the ocean? There is no information. There has not been any tagging, any sort of research that has so far taken place to understand their movement range. So this is the density distribution of a sooty tern in Bird Island, again done by Chris. So what he has actually shown is the white triangle, as you can see, as a Seychelles Island, and the birds which he has tagged, the different subpopulations are going there in different landscapes in the non-breeding season. What we are planning to do, what we should do actually, is add into his data 4 decades of research. Nothing can beat that, right? But what is happening in the Lakshadweep archipelago? Where are those birds going? We must take initiatives in order to learn about the migration route, the nesting behavior, the movement pattern of the birds in the Lakshadweep archipelago, and add into the data which is already available in the Indian Ocean. An initiative from both the sides would mean miracle, might give us much insights, unravel the intricate mysteries of these birds' migration. Another interesting individual, brown noddy. The entire Facebook, Instagram is flooded with brown noddy's images right now. These birds are monogamous breeders, meaning they would prefer one partner, they are not polygamous, and they would be with that partner like your Sarus cranes. They would be with their partner for as long as they can. They are also noddy. You might have already known this. Why does the name noddy come from? Because of their nodding display. They will nod their head. 2 individuals simultaneously, male and female, will nod their head, show a courtship display, allopreening each other, preening each other, and making sure that their courtship, the male is doing his courtship display in order to attract the female. Genetically, even though this is a tern, but it resembles the habits and behaviors of a gull. It would chase off anything. It is going to, if you go near them, it will be, a ravishing character. It will chase off. It will hang out even by the coastal line, as we can already see that. And their behaviors actually resemble, even though it resembles the gulls, but it's genetically a tern species. And this bird also, same thing, 6 to 8 years. The young individuals take time to get sexually mature. 30 to 32 years, their whole lifespan. Again, more or less the same story. But however, for the brown noddy, nowhere in the world they have taken any steps for satellite tagging them. There are few ringing recoveries, few ringing operations that has been done in the Western Australian coast, but there is no much information available on where do these birds go. They are moving across the 30-degree north to 30-degree south landscape belt. Where are they going? The birds in the Lakshadweep archipelago, are they going somewhere else? Are they going to Seychelles? Are they going further down below towards maybe the Christmas Island in the near Australia? No information is available there. Greater crested tern, another bird which you all must have seen when BWS goes to Bokhali and make sure that we all go to pelagic trips from Bokhali and that area. We come across the greater crested tern. I have seen greater crested tern in Henry Island back in 2016. 250 of them in Henry Island. These birds also distributed from the East African coast all the way to the tropics of the Pacific Ocean. Same breeding season, April to June, but we don't see them breeding here. But these birds are breeding in the PT Island. Small numbers, but they are breeding in the Lakshadweep archipelago. The birds which we see in the coastal belt of India, large number of them, do they all are coming from the birds which are breeding in the PT Island, or they are coming from somewhere else? Again, an intricate mystery. We are not sure what is happening to these birds here. Lesser crested tern. Sometimes all birders get confused how to identify greater and lesser crested tern. As you can see, the greater crested tern has a longer, slimmer orange bill, and the tail and rump is grey, not white. I'll show you an image next where you can see how to properly identify the species. The lesser crested tern in the whole of Lakshadweep is the most widely distributed bird. They are there in all of those different islands, 36 islands, are widely distributed. Some of them do breed there, but the others, where do they go? Where do they breed in the Indian Ocean? No one has a clue. We have really no information what is going on with these birds. And they are partly migratory, we know, but again, what is happening to their population? not much information is available. As you can see, the grey color, the bill color, long elongated bill, the grey rump, the grey tail feathers, an easy way to identify this bird. However, some ringing recoveries have been taken place. In Persian Gulfs, where these birds are, some of the birds are known to breed, they have ringed those birds, and many of these birds have shown to make a landfall in the western part of India. Aksi Beach, we all know, we go there to see different weathers. Goa and Kanyakumari in Tamil Nadu. So the birds which are coming here, they are coming from Persian Gulf. What about those birds which are breeding in Lakshadweep archipelago? Where are they going? Are they going to Seychelles? Are they going to the Horn of Africa? Are they going further below to Sri Lanka or all the way to Indonesia? No information, sadly. Bridle tern, another interesting bird which we are all seeing now in Gujarat. This bird shows a very interesting thing known as kleptoparasitism. What they will do if they are hunting or foraging in a mixed flock, they will not hunt or they will not forage. This is something which you see in the great frigate bird, large predator, but it will not hunt. It will wait for the small birds to hunt for it, and then it immediately will attack and snatch. Well capable of catching fishes, they would not do it. It's a very interesting thing, the kleptoparasitism which this bird shows, which many birds do not show. Migration in the Indian waters, of course, for this bird are not really well known. Both young individuals we know are very natal and colonies to the breeding sites. This bird, Pandey 2007 mentions that he has seen some of these birds breeding in the PT Island, but not in great numbers. Again, another intricate mystery. Where are these birds going? One in spectral. It does not breed here, but it's a very important sighting. This bird is a near threatened bird for which the whole of the science community has zero information whatsoever. The only thing we know is they are breeding in the Socotra, a very interesting landscape. But what does it feed on? Where does it go? What is happening to this bird? No one has any clue. All what we know is the population is declining, and they have listed it as near threatened. One thing that has happened in Socotra is hatchling collection for food. That has been a major threat. But is it only breeding in Socotra, not anywhere else? No one knows. So why should you get fascinated by seabirds? What are they have that no other birds do not have? The questions that we would like to answer in studies which we carry out is there a spatial segregation among the nesting seabirds? Meaning that are those different birds breeding in different latitudes? Is there a latitudinal variance? The birds which are supposed to breed in Seychelles, are they coming into Lakshadweep? Or the birds which are breeding in Lakshadweep, are they going back to Seychelles? Is there an interchanging movement of these birds in the Arabian Sea or the Indian Ocean? Does the bird has site-specific behavior? Meaning in different seasons, is the bird which is coming back exactly to that same spot in PT Island? Is there a temporal variation in population? Because as I had already shown in the previous slide, these birds are known to breed from March all the way to August. So are there different populations coming in different months? Because it takes for them to at least 30-40 days for the hatchling to completely grow and grow back to the sea. So could this be like different populations coming in this in landscape in different times? We are not really sure, but we would definitely like to know. How the environmental factors influence them. We know research has already shown that monsoon is an influencing factor. But how are these birds getting influenced by the monsoon? Dr. Suresh's work regarding the Amur falcon has already shown, as he has figured out, that the wind speed is 25 knots, is 25 km per hour. So that wind speed, based on the bird's velocity in the wind, it makes sense that they are utilizing the tailwind in order to move around. We don't have idea of how these birds are using the monsoonal winds. For that, again, satellite tracking is extremely crucial. We must take place satellite tracking in the Lakshadweep archipelago in order to know how these birds are actually using this landscape. Then again, the non-breeding period, where are they foraging? The breeding period, where are they foraging? How far are they going from the nesting site in order to collect food? Is there an inter-nest competition between those birds? We are not really sure. We would definitely like to figure out. The challenges facing the seabirds in the Lakshadweep archipelago. Introduction of invasive animals. I've already told you, many invasive animals are being introduced in the Lakshadweep. Black rats, one of the primary invasive species, cats and dogs. But one of the things which I definitely want to mention is the guano collection. Guano is the bird poop. It is rich with ammonia, meaning rich with nitrogen, which you can use as a fertilizer in order to grow plants, in order to grow whatever you want to grow in vegetables and all those different things. So people would go into the PT island. That Pandey 2007, he actually did an interview survey, going around all those different islands and asking people whether they collect guanos from the different islands, and many of them have agreed that yes, I go there, collect the guano and come back and use that guano in order to grow vegetable. You know the harsh conditions in Lakshadweep, small islands, nothing much is there, not much vegetation, not much facility. But how can we educate these people that if you go into this landscape and collect guano, that means the bird will not use the landscape anymore. The moment you go there, step foot on it, they will not be using that landscape. Human exploitation, egg collection, egg harvesting. In Seychelles, it had been a massive thing before Chris Ferry took off his work 40 years back. So he had given his whole life trying to convince people, trying to tell people that you should not collect eggs. If you are collecting eggs, why? Because these birds lay only one egg. Sooty tern, brown noddy, they lay only one egg. If you are taking that one egg, that bird might lay one more egg later down the line, but not more than one. So if you are taking that egg out, that means the whole of the nesting season is gone. The bird is not going to produce hatchling, new generation, it won't come out. Coconut plantation. As you can see in the Peril 1, 2 and Thinakara, these two islands, there has been massive amount of coconut plantation. That is also leading to disappearance of those nesting habitats, the proper habitats where these birds are supposed to nest. We are completely eradicating the landscape by making sure we are planting more and more coconut. You know what is happening in case of the Borneo, palm oil. In order to grow palm oil, we are eradicating the whole of Borneo, Indonesia. There's such a primary landscape for the orangutan, such an incredible animal. We're eradicating them. Why? Because of our own greed. We want palm oil, that's why we're growing it, and we're making sure that this animal does not survive. Would we want something like this to happen in our own Lakshadweep? What is happening in Borneo, Indonesia? Definitely not, right? We Indians, we definitely would not want something like this to happen, replicate here in our own country, in our own Lakshadweep. Use of rodenticide like a robot. So what Pandey did in 2007, he saw many bird carcasses near PT Island. He collected a few of them and he did some sampling, and he figured out that those birds are having zinc in it. So zinc, he did some research and figured out that this rodenticide, which are used in the other islands where people are there, in Roban, it has zinc. Extensive use of Roban, this rodenticide, in the islands nearby is actually influencing these birds as well with biomagnification. When you put one particular metal, heavy metal, or could be any chemical, it is going up through the food chain, and as it is getting accumulated in higher up in the food chain, the accumulation is more, and the birds, these poor birds feeding on the fishes which are getting highly affected by the zinc, are not able to cope up with the high level of zinc in their body. So this is something which is also very important. You are growing vegetables somewhere else, for that you are also connecting guano, you are also using rodenticide. So where will these birds go? You are putting so much environmental pressure already in them through climate change and global warming. You are making sure they do not breed there. We don't want something like that to happen. No, what happened in Dry Tortuga National Park, 3 million birds to all the way to 350,000 birds. Definitely we don't want something like this to happen. So for that, Wildlife Institute of India, in collaboration with the Lakshadweep Forest Department, has decided to take up a study in the Lakshadweep archipelago in the PT Island, looking over the PT Island bird sanctuary, where we would be tagging, satellite tagging brown noddies, sooty terns, greater lesser crested terns, in order to properly understand where these birds are actually going, establishing a long-term research program. There has not been any long-term research program in this landscape in the Indian region. Chris Ferry has already done the work in Seychelles. What we are planning to do, we are planning to add more data and cover the entire Indian Ocean region to have a proper understanding of these birds and their migration. Establishing a pattern of feeding ecology. What these birds are feeding their young. what is the interval when these birds are coming to feed the young individuals? Is there a nesting space competition between the sooty tern and a brown noddy? Zakaria and Kurup already mentioned there are no intermix of these species. But Pandey et al., when he visited did the survey in April, he saw there are intermixing. Brown noddies are making colonies with the sooty tern. So what is the competition? Is there a competition? We want to figure out through our study to have a proper understanding of their nesting ecology, not only their migration pattern. Does nesting periodicity vary along the latitudinal gradient? I already told you. The birds are dependent on the monsoonal currents. We know they're dependent on the monsoonal winds. But through the latitudinal gradient, is there a variability in their nesting pattern, their use of the landscape, when they are coming, when they are getting out of their landscape? Does the nesting seabird in Lakshadweep archipelago, are same population, or throughout the time there are different birds that are coming there and using this landscape? Does environmental factors, as I already mentioned last time, like the ocean, the monsoonal winds, how does it play the crucial role? We want to know when the wind is rising up in the region archipelago, how these birds are utilizing the landscape. That is the thing which we want to figure out through this study, and hoping to add more data into the already available data in the Indian Ocean region. And that's how we definitely want to conserve and make sure that whenever you see this sooty tern, brown noddy in any waters from Gujarat all the way to Bengal, wherever you see them, you should remember that these birds face enormous environmental challenges. They are breeding here in the Indian Ocean in 46 islands. Most of them have already been depleted, and here in PT Island, it's a small island already facing environmental challenges. So whenever we see a pelagic seabird in our coastal belt, we go there, photograph it, see it, enjoy it, but we also should think back of our mind what is actually happening to this bird's population. We should ask questions, and hopefully through our study in the coming years, I can come back up here again, put up a presentation like Amarjeet and Sir did, and solve these intricate mysteries which still remain. It's a fogged up mystery. I hope to clear out in near future. That's it. Thank you so much.
We take a few questions for Rajdeep also. Anyone? Yes, please.
For the breeding pattern, are they using the backwaters? Because in Konkan there are a lot of backwaters very near to the shore. That's one thing. And second thing, when I observed in somewhere in Dehradun area, if you go 5 kilometers inside the sea, there are a lot of rocky islands. No sand at all. A lot of rocky islands, very small islands. Can they use those areas as well for their breeding?
See, the sooty tern and brown noddies, they have a very specific landscape which they use for breeding purposes, like the sandy flats, the sandy beaches, where they will go there and lay the egg, because these birds do not make nest. They will just go there, lay the egg. Like the sooty tern will not do anything in order to make a nest. They will just go there, make sure they put up a bit of sand here and there, and just lay the egg. So they require those sandy beaches, very essential for them in order to have this. And the brackish water, you must have known that in Pulikat Lake in Chennai, you see the brown noddies, but they are not breeding there. They might come there, but for them, in order to breed, they require that specific landscape, no human disturbance. Sandy flat, where they will go there and breed in large colonies. They are not individual breeders, but they will go and breed in a small place here and there. They will all breed together in a large colony. That is why PT Island and all those different islands which are there in the Indian Ocean are very important nesting sites, which you all need to focus on, and definitely we'll figure it out later.
Any more questions?
Yes. One question. You mentioned about the biomagnification of the rodenticide.
Yes.
So what I didn't understand was this tern, they mostly are feeding on fishes and like aquatic animals.
Correct.
So how does the biomagnification work from rodents to that food chain?
See, interesting question. The thing is, when you are using those pesticides, rodenticide for some say, these things are getting washed up into the ocean through the water, could be through rain, could be through other process. They are getting out into the ocean. In ocean, they are getting in touch with the planktons, zooplankton and phytoplankton. So zooplankton and phytoplankton are the primary things which feed on these things in the ocean floor, and they're getting in touch with this zinc or any other heavy metal. The small fishes like sardine or krill in other crustaceans, they ended up eating this because the planktons are the primary food for the krills and for the small fishes. So, and then the small fishes are again getting taken up by our small birds, our seabirds, pelagic birds. See what happened in case of DDT. The DDT was causing, the calcium in the egg was getting there. Actually, the eggshells were breaking apart. That's why the DDT was banned in order to use it, because again, a biomagnification problem. DDT was getting accumulated up in the food chain, and the birds which are laying eggs, and their eggs were not, actually getting.
Usually, like people spray pesticides, but usually people don't spray rodenticide. Rodenticide usually is used in very small quantities.
Correct. But the research which Pandey et al. Did in 2007, his research, shows that the zinc which is used in rodenticide is getting accumulated in the bodies of the sooty terns. So as we do more further research, getting into the landscape, we will be able to answer this question more properly. This is the answer which I'm giving you based on the previous research that has been done.
Any more questions for Rajdeep?
Sorry? A high tide effect? The thing is, of course, tidal part is an influencing factor. But these birds do not make nest right next to to where the tide will come back up. So the 300 by 200 meter might be a very small place to make nest. But for these birds, which weigh around 150 grams or 140 grams, they will all gang up. And 5 centimeter to 6 centimeter is the nesting gap between two different individuals. So they will make sure that they nest somewhere where the ocean water is not coming during the high tide. Otherwise, the nest would get washed off, so they will not be making nests there.
Okay, so let's have a big round of applause for Rajdeep. Talks were immensely, well received, and I'm sure you will take back lovely memories from here. And we would now like to felicitate our 3 speakers with a small token of our appreciation. So I would like our founder member, Mr. Dr. Kanat Vaidya, and Mrs. Pampa Mistry to come up. And sir, if you would. Thank you. Yes, Dr. Loudly.
So I just wanted to know whether the honorable scientists who have come visiting us, how did this trip come about? That was the first question.
Even I am not very sure.
So how did this happen?
Rajdeep would want to answer that question.
Hello, Rajdeep.
Hello.
First question was this. Now the second question. Are we anointing them into the BWS family?
That's a question. Rajdeep is already our member, and I would leave that question to the other 2 speakers here to take a call. I'm sure they are members all over the place, and it would be really an honor for them to be members here. I'm sure our committee would look into making them honorary members. Yes, I would put that up to the committee. Yes, I would do that.
Would you want to answer? Do you want to speak about it?
Definitely, why not? So the thing is, the research that we do, there are 2 parts to it. One, it's very important for science. Second, for conservation. And for conservation, it's not simply possible just me alone. How much of our time that I would spend out in the field and collect information, but just me alone trying to raise the flag and trying to do something about birds or whatever other species is impossible. So when we talk about conservation or when we want to see conservation in action, it's extremely important to have people like many of you in this. And so I definitely think that is a fantastic opportunity where through my research I can actually pass that information on, and you are able to, spread that much wider. So that's the whole idea of actually, in fact, me wanting to come here and meet with you all, and of course tell the stories. But beyond the stories, you also are able to relate and connect with it. So yeah, thank you very much. I will definitely be honored to be part of it.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
There are snacks for everyone outside, so I would request people who are attending and the guests also to come outside and have snacks. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming on.